Today we are talking about iridology, and we are talking about what iridologists can and can't do and what they can and can't say. And thank you for joining me, whether you are with me on Instagram, Facebook, or whichever platform, or maybe you're with me live on the webinar. And I'm just doing my best to make sure I keep track of all of my platforms that are running now. Fabulous. So if because I've got so many things rolling here, if you ask a question or post a comment and I don't respond, please know that after we're done, I will go back and make sure that everything gets answered, because I think that's really important to me that happens. My name is Judith Cobb. I'm a master herbalist, certified natural it's been that kind of a morning. Master herbalist, natural nutrition clinical practitioner, and a certified comprehensive iridology instructor. And I am so glad you are with me, and thank you for your patience, as it has been a bit of an interesting tech morning. Today, what we really want to talk about is the misconceptions that are being perpetrated by people who've been trained in really archaic and disproved methodologies of iridology. And the reason I like to do this is because when iridology is not up to the current research standards, when people are perpetrating information that is really old, it gives all of us a bad name. And that's never a good thing. So we want, as iridologists, to be up to date. We want to be current. We want to make sure we are using the latest research, that we are practicing using the latest and most up-to-date understandings. This is so important. You can't fix a 2019 model car using technology from 1950. It just doesn't work. And that is it's the same with iridology. You cannot use tech that is from 1950 or 60 or 70 or even 1980 and think it's going to work. Just want to throw in this little teeny plug. I have a course that will be starting on November 7th. So that is just barely a week away. And we will be doing an information webinar this Thursday at 7 a.m. And so if you are interested in learning more about a course that will prepare you for certification, please hop on over to, oh, that just covered that up. Just give me a second here. There we go. Oh my goodness, it's because that screen is so tiny. I'm going to drag that down and hope that bit.ly bit.ly/iridology course info. And I hope that link is correct. I may have made a mistake on that slide. It might be iridology-course-info. So just bear with me. We're having a bit of a challenge today. At any rate, Thursday, and if you want information on that course and that link isn't working, just email me. My email is judith@cobblestonehealth.com, judith@cobblestonehealth.com, and I will respond to you personally and make sure you get the information you need. Or if you're joining me on Facebook, post a comment if that link is not working, and I will make sure the correct link gets posted, and I will respond personally. All right, so I'm just going to flip this camera around here. There we go. Hi, Instagram people. So iridology is often misused because there is some really old information out there, and that does give all of us a bad name. In a nutshell, what we can do as iridologists is we can assess irides. Constitutional iridologists learn how to connect the dots or triangulate and see the inherent patterns in irides, and that is so important. Understanding the patterns we see in irides or in an iris helps us to understand that person's body physically and emotionally on a very deep level. So depending on what other training you might have and the laws where you live, you may also be able to recommend dietary changes or nutritional supplements or herbs or essential oils. And so that is all really important for us to know. Let's look at an eye here. There we go. And I apologize, you're seeing a reflection of me in the screen plus me in the screen. Whoa, that's kind of heavy duty stuff. I'm just gonna see if I can shrink that down a tad and get rid of some of the reflection that you're seeing on Instagram. There we go. Okay, so this iris shows very resilient patterns overall. While there is some indication of a slight inherent predisposition towards lowered resilience, in the nutritive area, in the digestive areas, and in the surface blood and lymph, and in elimination through the skin, the fiber structure in this iris is really, really nice. I am going to pop my phone off the stand and get real close here for those of you on Instagram. There you go. There you go. Hopefully you're not getting too much reflection from all kinds of things in the room. But you can see that that fiber structure is very tight. We've got a high thread per square inch count. The fibers are primarily quite straight. And again, very densely packed. There's not a lot of gapping in between the fibers. And that means that this person has an overall really good resiliency. We can nitpick individual things all we want. But what we really want to do with this person is focus on how resilient their body truly is. So important. Even when we see eyes that suggest strong resiliency, these are people that are coming to see us. They've got a question or a concern, right? They've got a health issue that they want us to help them solve. We look at these eyes and we go, wow, this person has great resiliency. That usually suggests a better opportunity for them to have awesome health. So when we see these eyes that look like really resilient, like they have the potential to have extreme wellness, we need to consider what their symptoms are, and we need to look at how their eyes give us, even with their strong patterns and the good resiliency, how those eyes actually help us to understand what's going on in their body. Sometimes the symptoms the client brings in don't match what we think they should be on their eyes, but if we take that moment and really look at the eyes, we will always see some kind of a clue. Now, in addition to that, we also want to be aware that that the eyes do not always tell us everything. I know that's a shock to some of you, right? That's a shock. A Rolls Royce, like this beautiful old car, can be absolutely driven into the ground if it's not properly cared for, right? And a car of lesser quality can last many years if it is maintained appropriately. The same is absolutely true of people. A client may have been blessed with a genetically strong and resilient body, just like that last eye photo we looked at. Yet years of not quite giving the body what it actually needed, or even outright abuse and a lack of care, will create disease processes, will absolutely break the body down. And those are typically the people that will come in and say, I've never been sick a day in my life. Why am I sick now? Well, you didn't do your lube jobs and oil changes. Just saying. Sometimes we'll have a person come in who has a different story. Their eye will show a lot of gapping, a lot of texture, a lot of pigment. These are people who are born with less inherent strength and resilience. And but they sometimes actually come in with better health. And they come in with better health because they learned at an early age how to take care of themselves. They learned what to do to actually make their body work to the best of its ability. And now they just want to improve that a little bit more. And that's not hard to do. When you know your nutrition and your herbs and lifestyle things, you can do all kinds of things to help someone improve their health. I'm going to put my phone back on the stand again, just trying to make sure that those of you who are on Instagram actually are seeing the best images I can give you considering my setup is not ideal today. All right. Oops, you really don't need to see all the chaos on my desk. There we go. All right. So as we look at this again, someone can come in with symptoms that don't match their irides, and often that's because they've earned the right to have those symptoms. Right. While iridology is a blueprint of the body's inherent patterns, it does not account for the abuse that is dished out to the body. It might not even be something as obvious as smoking. It may be something like skimping on sleep or having a sedentary lifestyle. And the person, regardless of what their eyes are telling us, their symptoms are telling us that something else is not quite right. And so when we see that, we also want to be asking about their lifestyle and their diet. Iridology informs us as to the best ways to care for the body, and that includes food choices, lifestyle, and supplements. And when we understand the inherent tendencies and patterns that we see in an eye, we can do so much more to actually help a person with their health. And this is where it really helps as an iridologist to have other modalities like herbology or nutrition or aromatherapy or bodywork or something, spinal alignment techniques, to help us really help our clients and help them get on the right path or get on a better path. Many of the clients I work with are already on a good path. They just need it tweaked up a little. Trying to do iridology without supporting modalities, so without herbology or nutrition or something like that, is like taking your car to a repair shop and the technician saying, yep, indeed, your car has a problem with the exhaust system, but I don't know what to do about it. You're going to have to go down the road and talk to them. Right? And so that's not an ideal way to serve our clients. Not that we have to know everything and not that we should try to know everything. There's way too much to know. But we at least need to have a starting point. And then, yes, we need to have an understanding of what's going on so that we can refer people out if we need to. Iridologists cannot say the client has diabetes or heart disease or psoriasis, so we cannot diagnose. We may see many indicators that suggest an increased inherent risk of disease processes, but we cannot pronounce a diagnosis unless we are medically licensed. And as iridologists, most of us are not. But what we can do, and this is important, is we can ask questions. Things like, is there a personal or family history of blood sugar disorders? So if we see an eye that suggests an increased risk of blood sugar issues, then the question is there a personal or family history of blood sugar issues? And even if the client says he has blood sugar issues, we cannot give that condition a name. We are not allowed to call it diabetes. We can't call it type 1. We can't call it type 2. We can't call it type 3. We can only echo what they've said. I understand you said you've got some blood sugar issues. Let's see how we can support your body best with nutrition and supplements. We can teach our client about markings that we see. We can share with him that these markings are indicators that are often seen in the eyes of people who have issues metabolizing their dietary carbohydrates properly. We can ask him if he's had dietary counseling, and if our training covers that, we can go that direction with him. Because I'm a herbalist, I can also teach him about herbs that can be helpful and historically used in situations like this. So do you hear what I'm doing? Do you hear how I'm not diagnosing? Do you hear how I'm not prescribing? Do you hear how I'm using the eyes to guide questions so that I can get answers that will allow me to build a program for my client and educate my client? We can also share studies that have been done about herbs and diet and the condition in question. It's a tremendous disservice for us, and potentially dangerous for us as iridologists, to do an iris analysis over social media. And I'm going to focus on these eyes that are on your screen in just a moment and share something with you. As a practitioner, we need to have real-time conversations with our clients. So if someone tries to send me eye pictures, I send them back and say, I can't do an analysis unless we can have a consultation. I need to talk with you. I'm not going to tell you what I see in the eyes, because that actually has very little relevance to what's going on in your body unless I know what's going on in your body. And the other problem with these online analyses is they spew out so much outdated information, typically, that the client simply doesn't know where to start. It's overwhelming for the client. They don't know how to deal with all of this information. And that is a really critical thing. You know, when I first started doing iridology many years ago, I would do that with a face-to-face client. I would spew out everything I knew about iridology that I saw in their eyes. And I saw time and time again how it overwhelmed them. They didn't know what to do with it. Even though I had given them dietary information about everything I saw in their eyes, way too much information, they got discouraged. They didn't come back. So just saying, not the best way to do this. So as we look at this set of pictures that are on your screen, these are the eyes of one man taken 23 years apart, different cameras, but they are one man. Now, as you see this, are you seeing anything here that makes you want to say or do anything? Are you? You know, so many people would look at the image that is on the left, and then they would look at the newer image that is on the right, and they would say something like, wow, he's done some cleansing. Look at how much clearer the image on the right is. Look at how much clearer the fibers are. Look at, wow, that's just awesome. And then they would say, look at all the toxicity that is showing up in the right eye between 6 o'clock and 9 o'clock that wasn't there 23 years ago. Now, I'm going to tell you that's all bad information. And I know if you've got an old school iridology background, you might be going, oh, that's not right. She's just, what she said first was right. And in that information, that's not right at all. And it is absolutely right. Here's why. Two things. Number one, you cannot compare images taken with different cameras, different lighting, and different settings. The image on the left was done with a camera that was print film, and a very high-tech SLR camera, but it would be about, if I still owned it, it got stolen sadly, but it would be 35 years old now if I still had it. Incandescent flash, which is a more yellow flash. The image on the right is done with a 24 megapixel camera with an LED flash, and LED shoots a little blue. The other things to know are that within a camera, you can adjust the color balance, the white balance it's called, and that will totally change the color. So you can't look at these pictures and say, oh, the cleansing. Look at the skin tones between these two pictures. The image on the left, the skin tones are kind of more pale. On the right, they are much more pink. That's a dead giveaway that the photography has changed significantly. The other thing we need to be aware of is that we don't pick up toxicity and show it in our eyes. We can accumulate pigment that has a genetic predisposition, and that genetic predisposition can manifest at different times. And so this gentleman did not have the genetic predisposition towards liver issues that was manifesting when he was 42. By the time he was 65, that genetic predisposition towards liver issues had started to manifest in his symptoms and by the pigment in his eyes. That pigment is not toxicity, and it's not going to be cleansed away. Let's do a quick little iris analysis here. And again, I apologize for those of you that are with me on Instagram that you're getting so much room reflection. My usual setup doesn't have that. And I'm just going to take the camera off the stand. We're going to get to the right slides. I'm going to try to find an angle that gives you better images on Instagram. There we go. Okay, a little bit better. So this is a female, age 44. When she came in to see me, she weighed 200 pounds and she was gaining weight. Now she's 5'10", so she can carry some of that. But her biggest concern wasn't so much weight, it was joint aches and depression that was worse in the winter, for which she was using antidepressants, and painful periods. So as we look at her eyes, and I'm just going to come in fairly close and try to keep the integrity of the image for you again on Instagram. And I know you're getting a reflection of the phone camera there. As we look at this, she has a slight connective tissue predisposition and a slight polyglandular predisposition and a central heterochromia. And so that means that she's got some liver pigment, and traditional Chinese medicine sitting in that central heterochromia would say that the liver is the seat of depression. And the liver also balances hormones. And so if she's prone to her liver having a bit of an attitude problem, she's going to be a little more prone to depression and hormonal issues. Also, with the central heterochromia, there's some yellow in it, which doesn't show up well on the camera phone. And that suggests an inherent predisposition towards kidney issues, which, again, going back into TCM, would suggest some potential issues with joints. She has a shoe lacuna here in her left iris, exactly at 3 o'clock. That also suggests inherent predisposition towards kidney issues. So when we take that shoe lacuna and put it with the yellow pigment, we really have a question about how her kidneys work and how they're balancing her acids and how that is affecting her joints. Now, we also need to remember that weight gain is always related to inflammation. Always related to inflammation. So I asked her about her digestion, and she had said there's no symptoms, but her eyes suggest that there is actually an inherent predisposition there. And I asked her about her bowel movements, and she said she was having rabbit pellets. Well, that's not the way bowel movements are supposed to be. She was drinking 3 to 4 cups of coffee per day. And regardless of what people say about coffee being good for you, it's really hard on the thyroid, it's hard on the liver, it's hard on the stomach lining, it's hard on the adrenals, and it increases acid inflammation. So in her first appointment, I suggested eliminating the coffee. And she'd been a client of mine for many years, and I've nagged her on this, and so I had to really put the thumb screws on her with this one, that the coffee was not helping her cause at all. And we also suggested a collagen supplement, some digestive enzymes, and that she should be increasing her leafy green intake because that would support the liver using foods, and that was a really good option for her. In her second appointment, which was about a month later, she had done all the recommendations. Yay, go her. And her joints were improving, her periods were improving, and the depression was slightly better. So I asked her about her water intake, and she said she was only drinking about 3 glasses of water per day. Well, kidneys need a little bit more than that. And I asked her about her sleep because with traditional Chinese medicine, the liver is also the seat of insomnia. She said that she actually has very broken sleep. So I suggested that she should work towards getting some protein at every meal, especially vegetarian sourced proteins. And I suggested she should talk to her doctor and get a prescription for a seasonal affective disorder lamp. Now, depending on where you live, you might know what you might not know what seasonal affective disorder is. And it's a problem that we have here in the far north. And I'm in Canada, where we don't get enough sunlight in the winter and it leads to depression, but we can overcome that with using a special lamp. So I suggested she talk to her doctor and get a prescription for that, and that she start walking for 30 minutes a day at a gentle pace, and that she increase her water consumption to 6 glasses per day. On the third appointment, so about a month later, the doctor had given her the prescription for the SAD lamp, and she had got her SAD lamp. She loved it. She finds that sitting with the SAD lamp on for about 20 minutes first thing in the morning just energizes her. It's her sunshine dose, right? And she'd upped her protein, she'd upped her water. She was still working on getting her walks in, but I was really pleased with everything she had done. So do you see how that iridology assessment worked and how it worked to help me create a program for her, how it helped me to figure out what to do with her, even without a diagnosis, even without actually prescribing. So iridologists cannot diagnose or prescribe. And here's what I am really hoping you're taking away from our little meetup today, is that iridologists who are using old school techniques typically do diagnose and they do prescribe. If you're a licensed medical practitioner who has permission legally to diagnose or prescribe, go for it. But if you're like most of us, don't. You really want to avoid that. The safest way to practice iridology and to be of the best service to your clients is to study and use constitutional iridology as a guideline for the questions you're going to ask and the conversation you're going to have. And you can use that then to make really great suggestions for your client. If you're curious and you want to learn a little bit more, again, I invite you to do a little bit of follow-up and to consider joining me for the Iridology certification class that is starting on November 7th. And I'm just going to quickly check that URL and make sure I did it right. Iridology course info. And just make sure I've given you good information there. Yes. It is coming up slowly. So that link is for the webinar that happens on Thursday at 11 a.m. Mountain Time. And that's where I'm going to give you lots of details about the course. So if you're interested in iridology and you want to consider taking a course, it's a really safe way to learn more about the course and a little bit more about iridology. I thank you so much for being with me today. And again, I hope you will join me for the webinar on Thursday. And just so there's no surprises, that webinar is actually called the Better Client Appointment Guide: How to Eliminate 4 Key Stumbling Blocks so you can facilitate better client sessions. And I hope to see you Thursday. And for sure, I hope to see you Friday at noon when I do another Instagram Live and Facebook Live and webinar. Take care and have a great day. Bye for now.